please join us in welcoming the publisher of the Baltimore Times, Paris Brown, Chelsea Lenore Small, managing editor of the Forward Times, and the Informer's very own Denise Rolark Barnes.
Hello, hello,
Hi,
hello.
everybody. You all look beautiful today.
Now, this is Black Woman Joy and Empowerment right here as well. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, I think we're. It looks like. I mean, I'm jealous. Chelsea looks like she's in a warm climate. Paris and I are Baltimore and DC. We're all wrapped up again.
Don't let
It's
it
cold.
fool you. Don't let it fool you. Houston is very temperamental. Like I heard y'all are getting some temperamental weather. It's warm one day and then it was cold yesterday. It's gonna be warm today and then cold when we're at the rodeo tonight. So I'm dressing, for the weather as it continues to change unexpectedly.
Well, yeah.
Keep a jacket in the car at that point.
Yes. I have a jacket in the car, like boots and then sandals. Like you just never know what the weather is gonna give. So I gotta stay prepared.
Well, we'd love to hear it. I mean, we'll hopefully get a little bit of that warm vibe over here in DC. Like DRB said, it was warm for a couple of days and then right back to snow. But, the beautiful thing is we're keeping the momentum going with this very important conversation. And like I said, there's a lot of excitement with Black Press Week going on. So I just want to address the room with the first question. From the perspectives of, you guys are leaders in these publications, but in a lot of sense, you kind of either grew up with them or you knew about them before you were the leaders of them. So can you tell us a little bit about, that transition and what you wanted to bring to the table?
Well, I'm probably the senior and longest serving publisher on this panel, and but yet I can remember probably where Chelsea was of 10, 15, I don't know how many years ago, but growing up at the foot of her grandmother actually. And I didn't have that advantage. I was, with my dad, but Chelsea, is a third generation. And so, I always like to hear kind of what that experience was like. And just family conversations at the dinner table or when you all took vacations. I mean, what did you talk about anything else besides the newspaper?
It's so interesting because I feel like even though I am a third generation publisher, it didn't click for me until I would say maybe a few years ago. I didn't really, in a sense, have a choice because, my summers and then graduating from college were spent kind of coming back to Forward Times, but I was still finding my footing. And I think my grandmother, even though she devoted her life to Forward Times, I think she was always so focused on me charting my own path. So I think that me being a musician first, right? Going to school for music and vocal performance, I was able to bring something else to it, just a different vantage point, because I was able to watch my grandmother and my mom. And though my mom shadowed her mother for over 30 years, she brought her own thing to it, right? And so with me, I was able to kind of live a bit. I had the opportunity. My mom didn't have that opportunity. She literally went and devoted her life to helping her mother within the business. I think I didn't understand the richness of the Black press until I was grown. Like I literally would wonder, like, what do they do all day? Like I know that they're publishing a paper, but I didn't know how important it was until my grandmother passed away. And there were news cameras in the front of the office following us around because she was this public figure who devoted her life to informing her community. And then from there, I was like, oh, wow, this is kind of a big deal. But it was literally me finding my own love for it and my own place and figuring out, okay, my grandfather started this publication in 1960 in his garage from an idea and a dream and a vision. I didn't have the opportunity to meet him. He died in 1971. I wasn't born until 1991. So by the time I got there, I didn't have the opportunity to ask him questions about what his vision was. So I had to create my own in a sense. and let the legacy and the history of it inform my decisions, because you want to honor that, but you also want to bring something fresh and innovative to it. So I think our conversations around the dinner table weren't necessarily about Forward Times in the news, but it was about a lot of the things that informed the coverage of our community, but just in a different way. So I had the opportunity, I guess, to live a bit and figure out, okay, what things can I impart into this huge institution of cultural richness and importance, but bring something fresh to it so that the next generations, my generation and the generations that come way after me, still understand the just how important and integral it is to our existence, right? It's a loaded question, and I feel like y'all be here all day, but that's, I guess, the best way. I hope I answered it, but just kind of bringing my own thing to it, and because for a long time, to be honest with you, I was like, when it would get really hard and I would feel like, okay, how do we pivot, or what does pivoting look like? I would be like, this is not my vision. I didn't ask for this, truthfully speaking. But I have such a love for it that I know that I'm supposed to be here with my mom. My mom and I are supposed to be doing this. And it's interesting because even though she's a second generation publisher and both of her parents, were at the helm of it at a point in time, if you ask her, she probably would feel like she didn't have a choice, and I feel like I'm the first generation to have a choice and to actually choose it, and to actually begin succession planning while we're both here to help each other.
Oh, that's amazing.
Somebody doesn't have to pass away for the baton to be passed, and we hold it together and we figure out, okay, what things can we take? There's nothing new under the sun. What amazing things can we find in these rich archives from the 60s, and we take it and innovate it now in the 2020s and beyond. So that's kind of my vantage point, but I would love to hear from, Paris and Denise.
Yeah. Well, Paris and I don't mean to take over y'all's interview.
That's okay.
But Paris, it's from what you correct the story, but Paris sort of found her way to the Baltimore Times, and the publisher was like, here, here, take it. And she, from our vantage point, a lot of the publishers who watch Paris have watched her over the last couple of years and seen how she, you're talking about a rodeo, how she's sort of taken this thing, at the helm and really turned it into something. So not that it wasn't before, but it's amazing how, you didn't grow up in the business, but you certainly have assumed it as if it was yours. So
yes, and thank you for that. I think I came at a critical time. I carry forth that commitment to uplifting positive stories about our community. But I come from a business background, and I remember at the time when I came to the Baltimore Times, I believe it was what it needed. Joy was getting older and she was getting tired, and I came with all this energy and a marketing and sales background, and a fresh approach to what I believe is news product, and how we create diversified streams. And so at the time, my whole stance was I wanted to introduce new traditions around innovation, digital platforms, emerging technologies, and we were one of the first adopters of AI, and creating an immersive media experience and telling the story of Black cyclists over the course of 100 years, and bringing that to a new generation to consume in a very different way, and looking at how people consume information today, and making sure that we're creating those distribution points, because the industry is changing. And so I think that I brought a fresh perspective. I so enjoyed, Chelsea, hearing you talking about growing up. I didn't have that perspective. And so for me, everything was on the table for me to try, and I tried everything. But one of the things I do quickly is I pivot quickly. One of the strengths of the Black press is when you are small, you are agile. And so you have the ability to say, this doesn't work. you tried, you're like, this is failing, and you can stop failing quickly. And when I realized that, I had a revelatory moment. Someone, I was devastated by, it was interesting, by support, and they're like, we can't support you. And I remember, I cried all night, and I woke up, and I remember God saying, what do you have in your hand? I said, I have a staff. And I didn't, at that point, I realized my smallness was my greatest strength. And so I leaned into that. And so when you are small, you can do so many incredible things and make a big impact. And so, yes, I came from a very different perspective, but I embraced the perspective that I came with. And I believe that it gave me an opportunity to reimagine the Baltimore Times.
I love that point, Paris, because Chelsea talked about this heavily in her response that I kind of raised to you and DRB. When we're talking about that why, a lot of the times, like you were saying, Chelsea, for you, you were the first generation that had a choice, but your mom might have felt differently. So even with you guys stepping into your roles when it was time for you to become the publishers of the Baltimore Times, and DRB, I know since 9 years old, you were with the Informers, which you tell us. But when you think about it now, beyond bloodlines, beyond the connections and the foundation that you've established, what is your why for why you keep doing it?
For me, it's about stewardship. It's about protecting the trusted place that we have in our community while expanding the possibilities for the next generation. So for us, our why is rooted in impact, ensuring that our stories continue to inform, empower, and connect people to opportunities to improve their lives. At the Baltimore Times, even our events must align with improving the quality of life for our people. And so it is so important that anything we do reflect those values, whether it's storytelling, whether it's an event. And it's important to control our narratives. One of the things we find at the Baltimore Times, we will cover stories no one will cover. There was one week we did 15 stories and not one media outlet covered it. And so we realized the importance of our role and the why it is necessary to control our narratives, because we control how people see Baltimore through our publication.
Good point. DRB?
I love that. I think Paris is so on point, and that's the history of the Black press. And you figure 199 years. And I go back to the early days when the first Black newspaper, Freedom's Journal, was published. And, the country was, about to go into the Civil War, and, the North was trying to secede from the South, and people were trying to, it was it claimed to have been all over the issue of slavery, but we know it was economics and whatever else. But you had all these folks talking about what shouldn't we, what's going to happen with the slave, and so you had two educated men. One was a college graduate, the other one a minister, and they said, wait a minute, we have opinions. This is going to affect our lives. We even care about whether the North and the South succeed. How do we keep this union together? And so, but nobody was asking them their opinions. Nobody cared, because they didn't feel as whatever they felt about us. So they created the first newspaper, so that we could speak, state our own cause, right? Our own message, talk about how we feel about this issue. And and when Paris talks about the narrative, we think that everybody was enslaved when we had hundreds of thousands of free Black people all across this country, many who could read and write, who were running their own little businesses and doing all kinds of things at the time. But nobody knew about them because nobody was writing about them. Right. So here we are today doing the same thing, and that's why I like the fact that Nolan and created a song, about Selma, right? To kind of connect history and tell our story. I don't know anybody else is going to tell the story about what they're contributing to the movement today, but us, right? So we have to, and Paris and I were just, I'll close out with this, but we're just in an event in New York when we were talking about artificial intelligence. but that, what is it, LLM,
Mm-hmm.
it is, the models, what people are saying. If we're not engaged, if we're not putting stuff into, an artificial intelligence system, if
Mhm.
we're not speaking to it, then at some point we will be erasing ourselves out of, that medium. We have to be engaged and we have to tell our stories. And so, it's even more important now than, well, the next generation is going to say it's more important than it was to us. Every generation is going to find a reason why it was more important. And
Mm-hmm.
the truth is, it is more important. So,
Oh,
It
is
is.
it?
yeah.
And sort of going off that, it's like as you were saying, DRB, it seems like it gets sort of harder and harder every day, especially in today's political climate. So how do you all sort of stay motivated as both leaders and individuals to really keep your audiences informed and inspired?
I think, and just kind of to piggyback off of the last
Mm-hmm.
question too, Maya, I think with Forward Times, kind of our ethos is to inform, empower, and inspire, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that all stories may necessarily be positive. Some of them our community literally needs to know because it can save their life, right? There have been
Mm-hmm.
instances where we have, speaking, I can hear, Denise and Paris talk, and it's almost like if I close my eyes and don't hear y'all's voice, it's my voice because I feel what you're saying and I share in that sentiment in the sense that if we don't tell our stories, then no one will. I mean, literally 4 times when I read, my grandfather's writings, what he said as to why he created it was to create a positive Negro newspaper because there were none. There
Mm-hmm.
weren't any papers or publications or places to read about Black people's lives being documented positively. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I look at that, I look at the fact that we're the preservers and the recorders of history. And as the Black press, and I look at the fact that I'm a millennial, right? And I'm right in that crux of like physical media, digital media,
Mm-hmm.
both importance. But I look at how many people document their life and their life's works on social media or on Substack. And there's nothing wrong with that. But my point is, we don't own that. We don't own any of those platforms. So if those people who own those platforms decide to pull the plug one day, what happens to your life's work? What happens to your family's memories? Like, when you look at, I think a lot of publications, community publications, at a certain point kind of were like trying to scramble and figure out how to pivot, and we're like, okay, how do we show up and how do we survive and how do we thrive? And I think that a lot of people at a certain point kind of got away from, ourselves included, those community localized stories because of I don't think it's that they didn't want to. I think because of resources. You got a lean team, you're just trying to do the best that you can with the information that you have, and you don't have the people on the beat in the streets. But my point is, that is our lifeline. Our most successful stories are those stories that no one else will touch. It's those
Right.
stories where we're showing up to people's baby showers. We're showing up to people's 105th birthdays. We're showing up in spaces that other media do not deem important. And we're also showing up in spaces to break stories when Black women go missing. When there have been instances where Forward Times has published a story about someone going missing or someone being wrongfully terminated, and in that instance justice is served, and that's when mainstream media starts picking it up. They weren't talking about it before, and I know all of us have those stories. So when I look at the political climate now, to come back to Maya's question, and I think about the fact that we're literally facing historical erasure. I mean, we see it, book bans, curricular bans, all those things. There are people who are completely unaware of their history. And we have that. We own that. We own those archives. We own that information to the point that when they create a film like Hidden Figures, they got to come to the Black press to get that information because no one else was talking about that. So I also think about it like this, like we're in a time where, I mean, you could arguably say every time that we've lived in has been scary, right? Because the system wasn't built with us in mind. That's a whole nother. But my point is, we're in a time, to me, it's a beautiful opportunity for us to lean on each other. So right now, Forward Times has these exciting community partnerships in which we're working with smaller businesses, we're working with entrepreneurs, we're working with students, and we're saying, let us help amplify your story. Let us help amplify your efforts, and then you're going to have the Forward Times distributed here. You're going to let your audience, your customers be aware of it. So we're getting that added visibility and foot traffic. And don't worry about them. If they're not going to do it, let's do it for ourselves. Let's do it within our community, and let's not. I think that we often are under the veil of justice. We've been living under a veil of justice for a very long time, and it simply was not true. And I think it's now in our face, and we're facing it, and we're realizing, dang, we really do need the Black press. We ran a story this week on a group of fashion folks. Like, there are people who are designers and they do these fashion shows. They did their 6th fashion show this year, and it's being aired on Apple TV. They literally told us, came to our office to purchase several papers, and said no other outlet cares. No one else talks about us because they don't care. And so Apple TV recognizes this in this space, but when it comes to any other news outlets, they simply don't care. So when we look at our duty, our job, our responsibility, and quite frankly, our opportunity, like Paris said, it is so advantageous to be agile. It's so advantageous to be small, because I don't look at Forward Times as just a news publication. Like, we're a hub. We got real estate. We, you know what I mean? People can convene here to do all types of community outreach, just all those things. So I think that when we look at ourselves outside of just one thing, and we recognize what we've meant, when you look at history, but you also look at the opportunities, when we look at where we are in the crux of this political climate, I mean, we're everything. That's the best thing. Like Doechii said, I'm everything. Like, we're everything.
Every moment, absolutely. Well, I mean, inspirational words all around. Paris, I want to start with you with this closing thought. In your closing thoughts, any words of advice, anything that you want to see for the next generation of women leaders?
Yeah, I think that, and I appreciate what Chelsea said, because there is both a responsibility and opportunity. And I think that the role of the Black press is both historic and forward looking. And so when we look at the Black press right now, I think I'm excited about the new environment in terms of creating digital transformation and new storytelling tools. At the Baltimore Times, for us, community engagement, partnership, and now more important, collaboration is what we're using as our way forward, or our path to sustainability. So I think the future of the Black press lies in combining both our trusted legacy with innovative platforms that reach and engage our community, but more importantly, in creating and building our own multimedia ecosystems. And so we partner with technology companies to own our platforms, to own our distribution. And I think that that's important, because it is about not only that, also diversifying your revenue, but we have to find ways to amplify our stories, our voices, but also deepen the connection to our audiences, both locally and beyond.
And DRB will direct the question to you, and then I'm going to let Maya close because I have to run myself. But thank you all so much for letting me sit with this interview. I'll probably be following up with both of you, actually. So if you see me in your emails, don't mind. But DRB, your response.
Well, I just want to say that, I thought it was really intentional to have the two of you interviewing us. Although Chelsea's kind of in the middle there, but that's definitely having the two of you all, because you all are the future. And one of the things that, we're always afraid of is that, with all the digital transformation, that young folks don't read newspapers. They don't care about news. If it is about news, they only care about entertainment and sports. And so we're finding that it's completely different. And I'm really excited to see the students from, at least from my alma mater, Howard University, HU.
You know.
Thank you,
You
Maya.
know.
Because even as a student, when I was a student, I wasn't encouraged to go work for a Black newspaper, and my family owned one, right? And you all seem to have that mission, and you understand the trials and tribulations, but you also understand the mission. And our mission continues to be the same. As I'm going back, it was 199 years ago. And as Paris says, it will be the same as we go forward. It's just how we develop those lines of communications and how much of it, ensuring the fact that we own, what we produce, so that people don't, try to take our stuff and do whatever with it. I'm excited. I'm thrilled. I love to see this new generation of publishers, as we call Chelsea, I used to call myself publishers in waiting, or she is a publisher, but, and people coming into the Black press, understanding the mission and, willing to do the work. So I'm very encouraged and inspired.
Yeah.
Chelsea?
Well, thank you all so much for this very, very insightful conversation. We really appreciate it. A lot of things to really take from this, especially as we were saying, being the next generation of women in the Black press. It really does a lot to hear from the people who are currently leading us. So, really appreciate it. To close out, the great thing about being a Black woman is that you get 3 months all to yourself. We had Black History Month. It's currently Women's History Month, and April just so happens to be International Black Women's History Month. So, celebrating the undeniable impact of Black women all over the globe doesn't end today, this month, or ever, honestly. And not to mention, we kind of never stop the celebration here at the Washington Informer. We have a lot of different segments from previous conversations with very inspiring women about topics from health to generational wealth to social justice. So, make sure you all tune in to Let's Talk and Win TV and just the Washington Informer and the Black press as a whole, so you don't miss out. Thank you to all of our guests who joined us today and to all the viewers watching at home. And don't forget to tune in next week for another great conversation. Until then, I'm Maya Trujillo. Jada's there in spirit. But yeah, thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you for having us.
So much. Thank you for having us.
Good
I
job.
can't wait to come see y'all in Baltimore, and I'll be in DC on Tuesday for Black Press Week.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, absolutely.
See
Got a
y'all.
standing invitation.
Perfect. I can't wait.
All right, Chelsea. See you, Paris.
See you.
See you later.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.